Well, hello. Thanks for coming back to check out another video. So, I just have to forewarn you guys, I am super nasally. It's allergies, okay? So, sorry if that bothers you. I'm going to try to minimize the sniffing and the snorting and the blowing my nose. Anyway, that's really gross. Hi, let's start over, pretend I didn't say that. Anyway, if you caught my last Shop My Stash for April, you will know that in that video I said, hey, there's a lot of palettes that I want to pull out. I've got the spring itch, but I don't have that a lot of space on my vanity, and I already have a ton of eyeshadow palettes out, so stay tuned. I will post a video where I'm showing you all of the spring palettes that I would like to play with. So I have 10 in front of me that I really want to strive and try to reach for during this spring season. Now, when I say spring season, I'm really thinking now until June, June 1st. And then it'll be more let's do summer. So I have a lot of green themed eyeshadow palettes. That is my favorite color, obviously, but it's also just my favorite color to wear for the springtime of year. I know this eye look would say otherwise, but trust me, green is my favorite. Now, of course, I'm still a person that very much believes you can wear whatever color you want, whenever you want. But for me, there are just certain colors where they really just speak to me on another level during a particular season. So like I said, green for spring, orange and red for summer. I really like the deeper blues and the berry tones for fall and winter. So that's just kind of my personal preference, I guess. The other thing that I would like to say first is that you will be seeing this, I think, on April 3rd, which is a Sunday. So when I was doing my planning for the month of April, I realized that this week, of videos, I already had 4 planned out, and they were all palette centered. And I was like, well, Haley, if you can come up with 3 more videos, you could do a whole week and do a palette week. It's just Steph. So I was able to do that. So we're going to call this palette week, but I totally ripped this off and got this from It's Just Steph. So don't come at me. I am giving her credit, okay? I will, of course, leave her link down in my description box. And if she has a playlist or some type of eyeshadow content playlist, I'll leave that too, because she does a lot of fun videos, a lot of fun content centered around palettes. If you are looking for someone to help steer you in the right direction with palettes, she's definitely a great source. So yeah, this is totally inspired by her. But let's just kick this off. Let's get into the 10 eyeshadow palettes that I picked out that are really giving me all the spring vibes. Alright, so the first 3 I have are from BH Cosmetics. So the first one I will show you is the Looking Like a Snack. So this is a really pretty palette. I feel like this is one of those palettes that could really kind of go into any category for seasonally palette, because it does have the silver and the white and this kind of taupey color, which definitely reads more like winter. And then some of these berry tones, while I want to use these kinds of berry tones that are more on the pinky side rather than the purpley side during spring, I could still see those being really appropriate for winter. But yeah, it's just mainly these 2 peachy orangey shades, and then this bright pink, and then I said, these 2 more pinky berry tones just make me really excited to try and reach for this and really play around with this palette. I'm also super interested to use this silver on my lid and do a berry toned look. I think that would be really pretty. So the other palette from BH Cosmetics that I want to reach for during the springtime is no surprise. It is the Avocado Toast. So if I open this up, you can definitely see why. This is a holographic background though, so hopefully you can get a good representation of the color story. This is hands down the best green themed eyeshadow palette in my opinion. I feel like other brands try to do this and they just fall short. The Urban Decay Wild Greens palette, it just looks too light. It doesn't have that same depth. This one goes from really light to really dark. So I appreciate that more. This one also has a better color variety. You get these pinks up here. You get the paprika shade, which is kind of a brick red shade. You've got Pit, which is the brown, and then Holy Moly, which is the black. So you can really take your looks to another level, go in a different direction. You don't have to just do green and have them be very one-noted or just, not a lot of depth to it, if that makes sense. So if you are on the hunt for a good green themed eyeshadow palette, this would be the one that I would recommend. It has never let me down. I greatly enjoy reaching for it. The other BH Cosmetics palette that I would like to reach for this spring is the Lost in Los Angeles palette. So this is their all pastel palette. I don't typically do all pastel looks. I like to use this as a companion palette. The shimmer shades in here are quite lovely, and I feel like that's what I'm going to reach for the most in this spring season, is these lovely shimmer shades. But this is just a palette that, yeah, you look at it, you see pastels. I think we all think of spring, so I'm kind of also worried that if I don't like put this out there and try to reach for it now, this time of year, that it'll go underutilized for the remainder of the year within my collection. Okay, another brand where I have 3 eyeshadow palettes from them to talk about is ColourPop. So we will just kick it right off. This is the Lush Life palette. I think this released sometime last year. I know this got a lot of hype, and rightfully so. It's, again, a very reflective background. I don't really know. Maybe right there. So yeah, this got a lot of hype, but it's a really good palette. This is the really good ColourPop formula. This isn't patchy in any way. It's not super dry. Everything blends really nicely. It's super easy to work with. And I just love the mix of like these kind of reddish tones, which actually when put on your eyes, at least in my experience, do tend to lean a little bit more orange, which I really appreciate. I like that they're more orange rather than red. I think that they play really nicely with the greens and the blues in here. I love that you have this matte green and matte blue, and you kind of have like the shimmer versions of them. I know this one looks very green like in the pan, and it is. I would classify it as a green, but it's kind of like a darker blue green, so it goes really nicely with this blue eyeshadow. And this is pop of blue done right. You know what I mean? Like this blue can play and work so nicely with a lot of different colors within this palette. So at the end of the day, just a very well-rounded palette, and I greatly enjoy it. And it does, even just like the packaging, I guess it gives me like tropical vibes. I feel like this is another one that I would reach for in the summer as well, but super cute packaging. Okay, I also have the ColourPop Sailor Moon palette. This one is probably my only other pastel palette if I really look at it. I think you can kind of tell, like it does have some Lost in Los Angeles vibes to it. I did finish off the Super Shock shadow that was in this palette, so that's why there is an empty pan. But yeah, I think that this one is a good like kind of icy wintry palette, but also like a good spring palette. And I do have to say this yellow shade is a little bit underperforming. I wish that it was a little bit more punchy and poppy, which I have that in other palettes, so it's okay. But the shimmer shades in here are really quite lovely, and I am super curious to play around with both of these 2 purples down here. I think those will make for some really pretty looks, especially pairing them with other palettes that I have to go over with you. But yeah, really like the Sailor Moon palette. The last palette that I have from ColourPop is the Limoncello palette that I would like to pull out. Again, I feel like this could go for in the summer too, but this is like a little bit lighter than what I want for in the summer, if that makes sense. Like I want deeper, richer, warmer, bronzy tones in the summer. So while this is really pretty, it's just not as bronzy as I would want. It does very much feel more spring to me. My absolute favorite shades are these 2 right here, this yellow and this green. I just think they are so pretty. This is also a really easy palette just to pull out if you're like in a rush on the go. Like one of my favorite looks to do is take this kind of like neutrally brown shade, buff that into my crease, maybe if I have time deepen it up with this shade right here, and then just use this shade all over my lid. Like it's just a really pretty effortless look. I feel like that's kind of like the selling point of this palette, is that it doesn't take a lot of thought and you will look really put together, like your eyeshadow will look nice. Okay, so 4 more palettes to share with you that I really want to reach for as we go into spring, and they are all from different brands, so I'm just gonna like pull them out or pull them up. So the first one is from Udenzai. This is their Hella palette that Angelica Nyqvist did with them. The inside of it looks like this. I think you can see like this is very much just a great kind of like grungy green mustardy yellow palette that I really want to reach for in the spring. You've also got these fun pinks, and then you do have like these shades down here that are dark, well, these shades down here that are darker to take the look that you're doing in another level. I have done a 2 looks video with this palette. I've used this palette probably 5 or 6 times in its lifetime since I've owned it, and I really do enjoy this. I think that this is just fun to play with, easy to work with. The mattes are beautiful. The shimmers are really fun, and there are some like duo and multi-chromes within this palette. So yeah, I cannot wait to just pull this out and play around with it more, because it's one of those palettes where you like, you want to push yourself to do different color combinations. Does that make sense? Okay, the other spring palette that I have is from Natasha Denona. So this is the Metropolis palette. I think this has finally been discontinued. Surprisingly, this was a holiday release, like Christmas holiday, you know? I just feel like this corner right here, very spring, and then this will be like a good transition into summer kind of side, because it does, I think you can tell, have more of those like orangey bronzy tones. I really want to push myself to play more with the blue shades that are in here, and like just I've come to love blue eyeshadow. Like, I feel comfortable wearing it. It's not that, it's just I've never used the blue shades in this palette, so I'm not comfortable with them. Does that make sense? So I really want to push myself to pull this out, do a lot of looks with this, really show this palette some love, because it was expensive. Like, I don't need this just to sit in my collection and be like pretty, you know what I mean? So I am excited to pull that one out. The other one might surprise you that I want to pull out, but this is from Milk Cosmetics. This is a Mori Mariposa palette. You guys have probably heard me say before that I don't think that this was worth the $70 price tag. I am not a fan of Milk Cosmetics though. I have decided that. So take what I say with a grain of salt. But to me, a lot of the matte shadows in here are just underperforming for what I want. The shimmer shadows are great though, but is it worth $70? No. But I have it. I'm gonna try to use it and love it and learn to work with it. So I feel like this is a great fall color story, but also spring color story, especially if you just look at these top two rows here. I feel like these would make some really pretty spring looks, and then you could jump down into here for like the orange and the pinks, you know? So I do wanna pull this one out. Okay, so the last palette to share with you is the Glam Like Cake palette. And again, this is one of those where I would probably also try to reach for this in the summer. Laura sweetly sent this to me. So this is a rainbow palette, as you can see, really bright and fun and lovely. I have greatly enjoyed dipping into this. I feel like this I can come to and make really nice, bright, colorful looks just using this palette, but I can also pull it out and use this as a companion palette. This is the palette that does have some more punchy yellows to it, so I really appreciate that. And I love that within this palette, minus this lime green shade, there are no green shimmers, which is kind of a, you know, a con for me, in my opinion. But other than that, every shade in here, you have like a matte version and then a shimmer version. I really appreciate that. I feel like that just kind of helps when a palette is on the larger side to kind of help focus you in and be able to create like full-on looks with it, because you can think of those color combinations a little bit easier. You know what I mean? So yeah, I'm super excited to pull this one out. But that wraps it up. That was my last palette to share with you guys. I would love to know down below what palettes you are really looking forward to pulling out and using this spring season. I thank you so much for watching. I hope you're having a good day, a good night, or a good whatever, and I will catch you in the next video. Bye.